Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called Endurance Hunters, written by Average Cake Enjoyer. Grass kept his rifle trained to the tree line ahead. Muscles burned as he forced his way through waist-high grass that had long since claimed the stretch of field. His eyes flicked constantly across the forest's edge before a clawed hand left the weapon to reach for his vest. He keyed his communicator, his voice low and steady. "Keep your eyes on the tree line and stay sharp. Anyone that isn't ours, shoot it till it stops moving. We're here for survivors, not a picnic." A chorus of brief affirmations jumped back. Glass returned his hand back to the rifle and pressed forward, the forest canopy swallowing the light and casting in the depths ahead into shadow. A sharp snap beneath his foot nearly made him leap out of his skin. "Psst," he muttered, hearing pounding. He drew his long blade and slashed through the tall grass, hacking aside thick clumps in search of whatever had broken under his weight. His blade froze in place. A patch of fabric, unmistakably a uniform, peeked through the grass. Krath swallowed hard and worked faster, tearing the grass aside until the body lay exposed. His breath hitched as he recognized the insignia stitched in the fatigues. 11th Brigade. Their people, the ones that they were sent to rescue. Fighting the urge to retch, he dropped to one knee and examined the corpse. The soldier had been stripped of their weapons and most usable gear, but their helmet camera remained. Krath unclipped it gently, careful not to disturb the body. "Hitman to all elements," he said into the comm, voice tight. "Found a body. It's friendly. 11 Bravo, gear stripped. I've recovered their cap." He stopped mid-sentence. Every hair along his spine stood on end, a chill shooting down his back. Krath crouched further into the grass, eyes scanning the tree line. No movement, no wind, no sound. The forest around him had gone deathly silent. No insects, no birds, nothing. His stomach lurched. Something's not right. "Hitman to all elements," he whispered. "Fall back to town. Something's up here. Move fast, move quietly. Commencing radio silence." Rapid clicks of static acknowledged the order. Krath twisted a knob and shut off his radio, easing backwards. He recovered the camera, weighing heavily on his pocket. "What happened to you?" He forced the thought aside and retreated from the forest, hastily. Krath leant against a crate, loading the recovered footage on his data slate. The chip was damaged, corrupt with segments littering the timeline, but it was still watchable, if only just. He pressed play. Dawn, barely. An orchestra of gunfire filled the audio as an unmistakable beam of a lasgun zipped past the camera. The soldier stacked on an armored door behind a breacher, a detonator in their hand. A swift tap on the shoulder, a thunderous bang. The view exploded into chaos as the soldiers surged into the room, weapon raised, and found themselves staring down a human. The muzzle flashed just as the screen hitched, and the static consumed the video. Krath scowled and scrubbed forward in the next intact segment. The chaos had ended, replaced by pained groans and the distant cackle of gunfire echoing through the compound. The soldier stood over a group of humans laid prone on the floor, their hands locked behind their heads. The room was a slaughterhouse. Papers littered the floor in different stages of destruction, some shredded, some burnt. Deep gouges and scorch marks scarred the walls. A few bodies remained unmoving where they had fallen, a pool of crimson beneath them. The humans looked stunned, caught completely off guard despite the early warning they must have received. Many were unarmed. Some wore vests hastily thrown over sleepwear, straps loose and buckles undone. The soldier barked orders, gesturing sharply with their rifle. The humans began to rise. The footage cut. Krath exhaled sharply and skipped ahead again. The view lurched around violently, green and blue streaks blurring across the screen as the soldier sprinted, rasping out strained breaths. They slowed, coming to a stop as they turned around. The outpost burned in the distance. An orange glow consumed the area as smoke belched from ruined buildings. Distant gunfire echoed sporadically. The soldier turned away and ran again, pushing through the undergrowth. The video froze on a blurred image of the forest. Krath's brow furrowed, hand moving to advance the footage. The video resumed on its own. The camera was tilted upwards, angled askew, the helmet presumably laid on the ground. The soldier sat beside a small fire, shaking. Quiet mumbles slipped from their mouth as they rocked back and forth, until they went still. Leaves rustled. Their heads snapped up, eyes wide with fear, scanning side to side as their breathing quickened. For a split second, no, longer than a heartbeat, two pinpricks caught the firelight from deep within the forest. They screamed, a raw, primal sound tearing from their throat. The soldier raised their sidearm and emptied round after round into the darkness. With each muzzle flash, another pair of eyes flickered in the night, unblinking, patient. Click, click, click. The pistol slipped from their hand. The soldiers scrambled to their feet and bolted, snatching the halberd as they fled, the orange glow of the fire disappearing behind them. Clath swallowed hard, his mouth gone dry. He hesitated for a moment, then continued. The soldier's face filled the frame, gaunt, sunken eyes, their fur matted with grime and sweat. The video shook slightly, the hands holding the helmet trembling. They spoke rapidly, words flowing slurred and mostly unintelligible. Something about being chased in 3 days without sleep. A crunch of leaves. The soldier whipped around, nothing but a wall of green. They looked back at the camera in their hands, eyes feral. Behind them, the foliage parted slightly. A silhouette peeked through, their eyes locked onto the soldier. A branch snapped. The soldier screamed and fled, the footage dissolving into a violent motion. The video skipped, then steadied. A pale blue sky filled the screen. It was silent, save for only one shallow, uneven breaths. Minutes passed by, until footsteps approached. Slow, light. A human stepped into view, looking down at the camera. For a moment, they remained still. A sharp, sudden movement. The image twisted and shuddered violently, the scrape of dirt and grass the only sound he heard. Another swift motion, a sickening crunch, a wet gurgle. The struggle stilled, the camera lolling back into the human's gaze. The human just stood there, unmoving for a few moments, until they crouched down, leaning towards the camera, their face filling the frame. Their expression was unreadable, but their eyes pierced through the screen. Found you. They reached towards the camera. Static flooded the screen. The data slate slipped from Clath's shaking claws and hit the ground with a thud. The room felt smaller. The walls closed in on him as the final words echoed in his head over and over again. He couldn't breathe. Found you? Clath swallowed, finding his throat impossibly dry, a shaky hand reaching for his communicator. His claws fumbled against the button as he tried to steady himself. He forced himself to take a deep breath. Overwatch, hitman, radio, check. Silence. He glanced around the room nervously, his free hand sliding down to his sidearm. Overwatch, hitman, I say again. Radio, check. A creak. Clath spun around, pistol raised, his heart pounding in his chest as the door stood ajar. The door groaned as it opened further. A breath caught in his throat. A metal cylinder bounced once across the floor, twice, 3 times. White. The ears rang. Then black. End of story. Story number 2, Creatures of Myth, written by Captain Candy. Inside the grand hall, with a nearly 20-meter-tall ceiling, sat an old woman in a simple chair. The old woman was busy walking to one of the many people in the hall that had come to seek her guidance. Over the decades, she'd grown used to it and always advised those who sought her teachings. When a young woman walked in, however, the older woman's smile grew wider, and she commanded the hall to empty. Once the hall was empty, with only the older and younger woman within, the old woman spoke. There you are, child. All the ceremony is done then. Oh, no need to answer. I can feel the aura radiating off of you. We'll need to teach you to rein that in. The younger woman's face scrunched up in mild agitation, hearing the way the old woman addressed her, causing the old woman to apologize. Sorry. New High Priestess. After calling you child for nearly 20 years, it has just become a habit at some point. Forgive an old woman, would you? I forgive you, Grand Priestess. But what I came here for is not to change the way in which I am dressed. There is a final piece of knowledge only you hold that must be passed down with due haste. The old Grand Priestess nods. Ah, yes, the truth of the mystic world. The one answer only the High Priest or Priestess of each generation will know. I'm sure as every priest and priestess before you, you are nearly going mad with curiosity, now that you are so close to the answer. Fine. I will tell you the truth of the mythical worlds and their myriad creatures. But first, a question for you. Between goblins, elves, dragons, demons, elementals, and even simple slimes, even gods, what do you see that they all have in common? Stopping to think for a moment, the new High Priestess pauses. She opens her mouth to speak, but closes it several times. Finally, after a few moments, she answers, Mana. They all use mana, but to be fair, Grand Priestess, so do we. The old woman smiles. Right, you are in both counts, High Priestess. But what if I told you there was more to the story than simply being connected by mana? What if I were to tell you that all of them have one thing in common that goes entirely against common sense. What if I told you that each and every one of them is actually exactly the same as one another? The High Priestess's eyes twitches as she answers, I'd honestly call you a madwoman who's gone past her years, and how can a slime possibly be the same as a dragon? The Grand Priestess laughs. Oh, child, they are closer than you can possibly know. But soon you will. Enough teasing, I suppose. Grab a seat and listen to an old woman tell the story like all good children do. To start the story, I'll need to begin hundreds of thousands of years ago, in the age before magic. The High Priestess's jaw drops as she sputters. The age before magic is supposed to be fabrication. There's no way such a period could possibly exist. Only disorder and chaos would exist. How would life possibly exist? How could the worlds be stable or order maintained? The old woman's smile never left her face as she explained. But it was really real, my child. As real as you or I, or this hall we're sitting in right now. In that age, there was in fact chaos and disorder, but only marginally more than there is today. The laws and rules of the world were the same for the most part. People simply couldn't use mana to regulate, control, and guide them. In that age, though there was only a singular intelligent species in this whole of creation, they lived a singular little world without any world gates to cross stars. It took them 10,000 years to simply light their homes without fire. These people imagined many things to give themselves hope as they built and toiled with their many machines. Without magic, without mana, these people used and manipulated the laws of the world and bent them to their will. The laws of the world couldn't be changed, no, but they could be manipulated. They abused the laws of resistance to produce energy, the laws of heat to produce motion. They used the laws of the very world in fantastical and novel ways that we today cannot imagine. They did it through machines and material inventions, not through runes and spells. Eventually, these people, through their manipulation of the rules of the world, met their own world, and through their inventions traveled to others. Not instantly through the gates like we do today, but over centuries or years through great ships between the stars. As they advanced and found new creative ways to manipulate the laws of the world, they expanded. As they expanded, they found that they were quite alone in the universe that simply didn't care about their existence. Most races we know today would have despaired at the mere thought of it. This old race, however, was different. Instead of being despondent and lost in upon realization that they don't matter and nobody cares, they grew angry. Upon learning of how little they mattered, they sought ways to matter, to press their own existence upon reality. They twisted and manipulated the laws of the world until they screamed at the very touch. In their infinite spite and rage, this old race bent the laws until they broke and did something inconceivable to any other. They created something new, truly created it. A new form of energy to revolutionize everything. Stopping to take a sip of tea, the old woman carefully watched her successor. The young lady spoke in barely a whisper, almost to herself. Mana. They created mana, didn't they? The old woman set her tea to the side and smiled. You are right, child. This old people created mana, and yet that was only the beginning of their works. Upon creating mana, they changed fundamental laws of this world. Decay of materials no longer truly exists. Energy now runs itself in a perfect cycle, and our universe, what we call the worlds as a whole, will exist eternally. After making even the laws of creation kneel at their feet, this old people saw that their works were complete. They saw that the universe was their own to do with as they pleased. The next step they took was of personal interest and of group interests all at once. These people began to change even themselves. Their physical forms, after only a single generation, were all vastly different. Some chose forms of strength and manner. Some chose forms of law and order. Some of chaos and contract. Some of leisure and simple nature. Some of beauty and longevity. A few, though, chose to keep their original forms and forgo all of their knowledge and memories to be reborn. As an entire people, they destroyed all of their great works and wiped the universe itself of the knowledge to produce them again. Then they scattered based on the forms they took and simply waited in their chosen places throughout the worlds. Even today, the original forms of these people exist, but mostly these people are now called by different names. Goblins, elves, dragons, demons, elementals, and even simple slimes, even gods. All mythical creatures come from one people. Humans, my child, are the true creatures of myth and legend. That is the great secret of the mystic world. End of story. I'd greatly like to thank our Tier 5 channel members, Casper Arnholt, John Creighton, Manatharia, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.